Today's enterprise is practically drowning in data. Harnessing and utilizing those mountains of data are the next great challenge for both employees and their systems. This webinar is about the finance organization leading the charge in harnessing the volumes of data you find across your company, making sense of it via real-time or near real-time processing and analysis, and making the best decisions at the right time. The result is better decisions faster and hopefully greater profits. Today we will discuss these issues, cover case studies, and discuss best practices. You will come out of this event with a better understanding of how the data from disparate systems at your company can be brought together and married to analytical engines to enable faster and better decision-making at all levels, driven by the finance organization. Now, first up, I would like to thank SAP for helping us make this event possible. And like all events at Proformative, their generous support has allowed us to make this event free for everyone attending. So a great thanks to SAP. A quick note on today's agenda. First, we will hear presentations from 2 speakers, and then we will move to a panel discussion where we will spend the remainder of our hour. We would like this to be an interactive experience for you, so if you'll take a moment and glance at your GoToWebinar control panel, there's a little section there called Questions, and if you have questions at any time, please go ahead and enter them there. We will queue them up and get to them as best as we can during the Q&A part of today's presentation. We can't promise to get all of them in, but we'll do our best, and we'll follow up afterwards on any questions we do not get to during the event. We will send out a link to a soft copy of this presentation. In fact, it's already up on the Proformative site. If you search for the event title under Resources, you will find it. But we will send an email out to everyone, so you will get a link to the soft copy. We are offering CPE credits for the CPAs in today's audience. That means that we will take 2 quick breaks during today's hour to ask polling questions. These are simple and quick polling questions, and we'd love you to take a shot at them even if you're not here for CPE credit. They offer us a view into some statistical data and let us know a little bit more about the folks who are joining us today for the presentation. So we'll go through those very quickly, and that will allow those who are looking for CPE credits today to get the CPE credits, very simply. Now, a quick word about Proformative for those who are new to Proformative. We are the largest and fastest growing online community for senior finance, treasury, and accounting professionals. We are a completely ad-free and noise-free community of almost 500,000 now CFOs, controllers, treasurers, and the folks who work with them. So every level of the organization, we tend to be very senior weighted, but we welcome all to Proformative. And I like to say that we're the most boring place online. People just come here to learn, to get their work done. There's no, what did you eat for breakfast or what movie did you see last night? It's all about finance, accounting, and treasury questions and answers. Please come check us out at performative.com if you haven't before. We have a number of objectives today, but at the end of the day, what we'd love to get across is the issues facing enterprises that have mountains of data flowing towards them, and how the finance organization can actually help harness all of that data for good, for making better decisions faster at their companies. And helping us do that today, we have 2 wonderful, very knowledgeable speakers on the subject, who I will introduce now. First, I'd like to introduce Karsten Hilker. Karsten currently serves in the role of Solution Manager at SAP for cost and performance management solutions within ERP and EPM. Prior to joining SAP, he worked as an SAP customer and a consultant, where he gained practical experience in EMEA, the US, and Asia Pacific, developing and implementing conceptual designs and cost models for cost, product, and profit management. Karsten is an advocate and promoter of profitable growth, effective and efficient resource management, and optimization of processes and business activities throughout an organization. Also today, we're joined by Karuna Mukherjee. Karuna is currently leading solution marketing for SAP Business Objects Profitability and Cost Management for SAP Business Objects. She has extensive experience in business intelligence and EPM. During the past decade, she has held numerous positions in product management, product strategy, and solutions marketing with both SAP and Oracle. During that period, she helped design and implement many BI and EPM solutions at a variety of companies in many industries. And with that introduction, I would love to hand it over now to Karuna and let her start to take us forward. Karuna, welcome.
Thank you so much, John, and welcome everybody to our session today. We are really happy from an SAP perspective that we are able to participate and discuss this very interesting and compelling topic with you. So let's talk about, what is our new reality today? Where are we in terms of an organization, in terms of understanding what are our issues? What does it mean to operate in today's market? And some of the big things that are starting to affect, every organization, and we will focus on the finance side, is technology. The revolution of technology in the last 40 years has been tremendous. The impact it has made on organizations today, the impact it has made on business, the way business is done, how business is done, is huge. And a lot of that we are seeing very simply in terms of access. The amount of information that is available at your fingertips today is huge compared to what it was 40 years ago. The amount of information that is required by our executives, by our line managers, by our analysts to make decisions, to stay ahead in the business, to stay competitive, is huge. And so from an organization perspective, we not only have to understand what this technology is, we also have to understand how can we leverage this new technology to actually better improve our business, to increase our profitability, to better manage our business and stay competitive. And this is our new reality in terms of where technology is going to revolutionize finance. As we all know, our business environment is constantly changing. And some of the factors that we often hear about is volatility. There is huge volatility in the markets in terms of prices, in terms of stock, and these in turn obviously affect the performance of the company. They have a huge business impact in terms of whether the company stays profitable, whether the company stays competitive. Some other factors that, of course, have also been continuous and are increasing in the last, I would say, 2 decades, is this whole view around globalization. Companies today, as we all know, are functioning in a globalized situation, and not just from a selling perspective or from a buying perspective, but the larger ecosystem that we are dealing with involves so many different factors at a global level, whether they are currency pressures, whether in terms of buying commodities across countries, keeping up with the different regulations and accounting principles of different countries, keeping up with the local competition, especially if they are large companies. They are not always dealing with global competitors, but a lot of local competitors. So understanding that ecosystem, understanding the various costs and pressures associated with functioning in different markets. With all of this, of course, there has to be this increased focus on risk. If the rewards are going to be higher of functioning in this globalized environment, in this multi-channel, multi-product environment, the risks associated with it are also going to be higher. And as an organization, as a prudent organization, one must focus on the risks that are associated with running the business. One must understand what are the key risk indicators of doing a business in a particular country, or what are the key risk indicators for doing business in a particular ecosystem, whether it's like through the partner channels or through a particular customer segment or a particular product type. And of course, the margin pressure continues, right? We are in the business of staying profitable. We are in the business of making money. We are in the business of doing the right thing by our customers, for our stakeholders, and that means keeping our eye on the margins, keeping our eye on the profits, keeping our eye on the revenue. And these things just get more and more complex when we talk about the new regulations that are being put forward by different governments or different regulatory bodies for businesses today. What that means for us with this constantly changing business environment is we need to stay on track to run the business the way we are supposed to run the business. We need to keep in mind that there are a lot of new technologies, potentially disruptive technologies being thrown at businesses today, whether they are to manage the business, whether they are to run them better, but are not always easily implementable. They are not. You cannot take a new system and just put it in front of a set of users and say, this is how we're going to do business today. So a lot of factors in place that need to be kept in mind when you look at the larger business environment today. And the one big question that always comes up and that we hear a lot of times from our customers, from our partners, is organizations are finding it hard to understand what the impact of this is going to be to them, especially to the finance organization. When you're talking about price markets, you're talking about globalization, you're talking about margin pressures, about risks, about new regulations, and couple that with all the new technologies in play. What does this mean for my finance organization? How am I supposed to interpret all this and then transform it into requirements and use cases for me within the finance organization to run the business better? The other big question, and I'm sure we all have heard a lot about this, is big data. Just some statistics here that I wanted to share with you. Currently, globally, we have about 5 billion mobile phones in use, and that number is only increasing. We have estimated a year-over-year growth of about 20% in smartphone usage. We've identified that there are over 30 million network sensor nodes, and that is growing by 30% year-over-year. My objective in showing this is not to talk about the number of cell phones in use or the way the cell phone market is growing, but to kind of highlight the point that with every new device in the market, with every new device in the hands of a business executive, of an account executive, of a finance line manager, the expectation of information, the expectation of data is increasing. One has now taken for granted to have email on a smartphone. We are at a point today where our executives are expecting to see some key financial information, are expecting to see some key metrics available to them on a smartphone. They want the information at this moment in time with no latency. Now add to that the complexities around the different sorts of data, whether it is hours of YouTube data, whether it is video data, whether it is data coming in through social media. As we all know, a lot of information that is now captured through social media websites like Facebook, which like retailers are using heavily, are actually used to analyze the impact of certain marketing campaigns. They are used to analyze impact on where should they be selling and how they should be selling. And so it's extremely important that we have a good handle on what this data means for us to run our business. This data is not noise. It is something we have to embrace. It is something that we have to look at, manage, and appropriately understand and then deploy to get better decision-making going. So we've classified this ever fast-growing volume of data into, they basically have three characteristics, right? There is velocity, as we talked about, the amount of data that is being generated on a regular basis within the business community, whether it is from the internal stakeholders or external stakeholders, is huge. There's so much of digital content that is being created that has to be leveraged, that has to be integrated with your traditional data sources to understand the impact of your business, to understand the different methods of selling, to understand the different methods of buying, to understand buying patterns. The second piece, of course, as we talked about, is volume. So just to give you a reference, in 2005, we created, as mankind, we created 150 exabytes of information. And in 2011, that was 1,200 already. So think about it. Think about this data that is being created. Think about the data that now we need to be aware of. We need to be aware of the numbers, of the patterns within this data to understand what it means for our business. And the third piece, as we talked about, is variety. So it's no longer just traditional data coming out of your traditional ERP systems and accounting systems. It is the data that is being generated through social media, through blogs, through sites like Facebook, through, we are doing sample surveys. We are just reaching out to the audience. There's a lot of non-traditional data that is coming in, equally important as our traditional data, and they need to be mashed together, do a full and complete analysis of your business. And of course, as we all understand, the technologies that are in play today that a lot of companies have deployed are not in a position to handle this kind of data, because it's no longer, as we said, this traditional finance and accounting data, but it is a mashup of your accounting data with maybe some customer information and customer segmentation information coming from social media, or it is accounting data now being mashed up with all the key risk indicators that you identified within your ecosystem. So you need technology, or you need systems in play that are able to mash up this data and then create a true platform for analysis and for decision making. And traditional systems do have physical limitations within, from a technology perspective, on whether they are able to do this or not. Now, we've talked a lot about getting, in terms of what the data is, what the issues are, but as we all understand, our financial objectives have not changed. We still have 3 key financial objectives that all finance organizations across companies globally are looking at. They need to maintain regulatory compliance. They need to ensure they have an effective risk management system in place that will allow them to manage their business competitively. They need to continue delivering superior services and products at reduced cost. They need to deliver the products that are wanted by the market, that are required by their customers, of the highest quality. Innovation has to be part of this process, while, of course, maintaining their costs and keeping their margins. And the third piece is this ongoing objective of outperforming your financial objectives. You need to continue creating value for your stakeholders. Despite the complexity around our ecosystem, these 3 key financial objectives have been consistent. They have evolved over a period of time in terms of what the expectations are, but they have still remained the same. And we need to ensure that we have systems and technologies in place that will actually allow you to meet these objectives. And the big question oftentimes we hear our customers then ask us is, do we have the right technology to support these objectives? Do we have the right systems in place? Are our business analysts, business users trained to understand how to use these systems? Are we leveraging all the data that we have within this ecosystem, within our larger ecosystem, to actually do our decision-making process? So we interviewed CFOs through various different channels, and some of the big things that we heard from them was they are still having to make financial decisions based on incomplete, inaccurate, and outdated information. And that is not certainly because of, this is not intentional. The systems that are in place today, the type of data that is being generated, it is becoming harder and harder to have these traditional systems keep up with these new changes. So oftentimes, you have to make a certain business decision in terms of whether it is a product launch or whether it is pricing a product or it's discounting a product, and you are basing your decisions on the limited information that you have. Oftentimes outdated. It could be an information that is a month old, and in that 1 month, as we talked about things like volatility, price volatility, commodity volatility, has completely changed your business ecosystem. However, you're still forced to make decisions based on that. And so we oftentimes run the risk of not only missing our financial objectives because we are making decisions based on outdated information, we also run the risk of possibly not managing our risk and compliance framework accurately. The other piece we hear about often is the inability to access detailed financial information across all business dimensions. As a business manager, it's no longer relevant for me only to look at my revenue across a particular product. I want to look at my revenue by customer. I want to look at my revenue by channel. I want to look at my revenue by other dimensions that I can now actually manage and more proactively grow my business. And the reason we are unable to do that is, again, the way our data has been structured, the way our systems have been structured. And so basically, when we are not having the right systems in place, we are unable to identify new opportunities. We're unable to identify where is it that we lack resources, where is it that we want to put in more resources. So it's extremely important to have an infrastructure in place, have a technology in place, have a system in place that is looking across this multi-dimension view of your business, the multi-dimension view of your financial data. The third piece I find extremely important and extremely insightful in terms of the time. The amount of time it is taking our financial folks, whether it is, again, executive level or line managers, to actually analyze is so high. The amount of time it is taking for them to process this large volumes of data is so high that, in fact, and we actually had a few of our people that we spoke with said that their finance organization is spending more time creating reports than it is spending time actually analyzing the reports. And that is an extremely telling point. Without the right technology, you're spending more time creating than actually analyzing, which is really what we should be doing. You oftentimes then lead to delays during your period end closings. You lead to delays in terms of your decision-making process. You actually lead in delays in terms of making some key strategic decisions that are important and are relevant in a moment in time. So McKinsey recently ran an article, and I highly encourage you to go ahead and read it, in terms of, what does this data mean for your business, right? And the survey essentially concluded two main things. They said data can actually be your friend. So a lot of leading businesses are outpacing their competition because they're better leveraging their data, and they're moving from being, they're becoming fact finders using that data versus staying in the fumblers category. Huge increase in profitability, huge increase in the overall growth of their business just by being able to access and utilize their data better. They're making decisions more on analytics rather than intuition. They're able to frequently reassess their forecasts, frequently reassess their plans, and then they use that information to better manage their business. So what does finance need today? If I were to go to a finance executive and tell them what is it that you need to better run your business, to better run your finance organization, these are some of the key things that we are hearing, right? We want to be able to better leverage these large volumes of data that are sitting in our ERP system. We want to have better, faster, and flexible reporting. Don't give me a system that has pre-canned reports. I want the ability to create my own reports, to do my own analysis based on what is going on in the business. I want my business users to create their own analysis, to create their own reports without having to rely on a particular IT organization to create reports from them, at month end or quarter end. Transparency, extremely important. I want information that is accurate. I want information that I can trace the source to. For a finance perspective, if you can't provide transparency of your data source, one can be sure that that data will never be consumed, those reports will never be consumed. I want to have a tool that's easy to explore. We oftentimes say a finance person cannot leave the Excel front end, but that is very true. They want something that is easy to use. Give me a format that I can consume. Give me a format where I can actually explore my data, and then let me, guide it's more like a guided analysis type of situation that I know what I'm looking for. Give me the data, give me the tools to actually do that. And of course, the final piece, you want trusted and complete information in a single place. I understand this complexity of different data sources, of whether it's traditional data, it's data coming from social media, but try and mash up the data. Give that information to me in one single place that I can go to versus having to log on to different systems to do the analysis. It's extremely important that we all take a step back and look at what these requirements are from a finance organization perspective. Given where we are operating today, we need to have these tools, we need to have these systems that will allow us to do that. And with that, John, I want to turn it back to you to do a poll question that we identified.
You bet. So thank you for that. That's a great recap of what the issues are, and once we get through this poll question, we'll get to some potential solutions. So I want to take this moment to remind folks that you can ask questions via the question area in your GoToWebinar control panel at any time. Would love you to take a look at this poll, and even if you're not here for CPE credit, give it a swing. We'd love to see what folks have to say about which of these issues will be important to resolve at your company, and they revolve around decision-making and data. We'll leave the poll open for another 10 seconds or so while folks finish up, and then we'll hand it over to Karsten. Okay, and with that, we'll go ahead and close down the poll, and we'll hop back to our slides. And at this point, we'll go ahead and hand off to Karsten. Karsten Hilker, who I introduced before, is going to run us through the second part of this presentation and address some of these issues that Karuna has set up. Karsten, please take it away.
Thank you very much, Sean. So I'll just jump into the first slide here. That's a key slide for the remainder of, I think, the session. And it deals with technology. It's a SAP independent technology. It's called in-memory computing. And there's a couple of key things to in-memory technology. First of all, it's a technology evolution kind of step. When computers were invented, we had those tapes, we had the floppy disks, we had the hard disks, and now we're dealing with in-memory. So the difference is really what in-memory technology enables us. And basically, in-memory technology means that your database, where your data is stored, is no longer on a hard disk anymore. It sits directly in memory. It's kind of when you have your computer, you have a lot of memory in there, and you open up a folder with pictures, and those thumbnails build up. That's basically when data is read into memory, and only when you see the pictures can you process the data. And that takes a lot of time in large environments, especially in finance environments, to read data, to process it, to write it back. So now the latest in technology is basically have the data in memory available at all times. And there's a couple of technologies out there where all the larger vendors, and they are able to read that data and have it in memory. So it's not something that where two people went back and in their garage developed something on their own. It is a general technology evolution step. It has arrived and it's here to stay, and it will be there for the next 7 to 10 years. And after that, maybe there might be something else, some kind of brain with connected wires or something like this. Who knows? But it's there. It will be in your company too. Depending on your hardware replacement cycle, maybe you're going to get this technology this year, maybe 2 or 3 years from now, but you will have that technology available. The key about this technology is that if you just look at the theory behind it, because it sits in memory, you can process data up to 1 million times faster. That's what one of the analysts found. And that's basically something that takes 2 days today, takes 1 second tomorrow. And I think that's the next step. It's an immense gain in processing speed. It's like you write your mother or your grandmother a card on Christmas via USPS, and it arrives a couple of days later, or you IM with her. So now back to what this does to us. So we have this availability of technology now, and that allows us to analyze massive quantities of data in local memory. That's pretty cool, and it changes a lot of things. For example, it allows us to access data in real time now. Now that we don't have to basically move data from systems to business warehouses to Excel spreadsheets, we don't have to have that ETL, the transfer process, take place anymore. We can basically just real-time update those data stores because we can access them and make it available for analytics. So no more reviews at month end after the fact. Now you can move them up. You can make it closer to the business when it occurs. You can have it eventually even in real time. You make a transaction, it's there for analysis. You can go deeper. If you can analyze all the data that you gathered, and Fiona spoke about this, even how the data grows exponentially now. If you can go to the line item level, because processing speed is not an issue anymore, you can go deeper. You can ask the questions that you want to ask. You're not tied to any kind of aggregation levels that your IT department puts in place. You can go into the line items, every single field in the line item, in every single analysis. You can deal with large volumes of data, and that actually also includes that there's no limitation anymore to what you can access, right? Today, IT departments might be archiving data out, give you only one period, give you only your division. With the processing speed of in-memory technology, that limitation is not there anymore. You can do multi-period comparisons, multi-year comparisons, lifetime profitability, all those things. And you can run faster. It's basically analysis at the speed of thought. You basically analyze data and you get the response back within an instant, within a second, right? So that changed a lot of how analytics are done in the finance side. You might be used to waiting for a minute or 3 minutes or go and get a cup of coffee. And many times maybe you schedule jobs to run batch overnight, and that's not required anymore. So there's the kind of fix the past aspect of it, but also a looking forward perspective where you can say, now that I have this power, what can I do with it? How can I leverage it? And that's where the power of in-memory computing comes in, because it's so much faster. We can now analyze data differently, and we can look at different processes as part of the analysis. So this leads to an empowered finance organization. It's the aspect of insight, where you gain basically deep visibility into large volumes of financial data. You can have access to real-time financial data. You can manage business to come in the middle of the month and not after the fact analyze what happened. And it's the speed. It's perform fast and flexible analytics, planning and reporting. Dramatic change to where we are today. The interesting thing about in-memory technology is that it is non-disruptive. Basically, data is typically taken from your ERP processing systems, doesn't matter what software vendor you go with, and you can load it onto this technology. So in that sense, none of the processes on the ERP side have to change. It's kind of a very, very fast database, a very, very fast business warehouse in its initial phase. which means if you plug it in, you can use the data, you can analyze on it, you don't have to change anything to the transaction processing systems, which makes it non-disruptive. So let's look at leveraging the technology here, the customer pain points and the customer needs. So on the pain point side, basically today, it's the inability to measure cost and profitability performance at granular level. McKinsey said you don't manage your profitability on aggregated levels. You manage it down in the market to the customer that you sold it to, at the time that you sold it, during the day, maybe at the place, the kind of transaction, the kind of channel you did. This is the level that you want to analyze your profitability at. Any kind of aggregations make you lose sight of where the real issues are, where the real opportunities are. True profitability performance can only be guesstimated. Now you're down to the line item level. You're down to the information that you have available, and there's no rolling up, guessing. You have basically the data at your hands. Simulation of new scenarios is done manually and often based on assumption rather than on real information. If you can process data fast, you can have the right rules in place. You can address those simulation scenarios as well. So from customer need perspective, you want to have the insight into consolidated information in real time and perform flexible analytics. You want to have access to reports in real time and make decision making with flexible analytics and calculations when and as they are needed. This is what we're looking at from a technology perspective, and in-memory technology can help us get there. So basically, through technology, we can get those real-time insights into large volumes of data, especially on the profitability side. We're dealing even in B2B environments with large data volumes, lots of customer sales items. So let's look at the key capabilities then of such a solution, for example, for profitability. A profitability management solution, profitability analysis solution based on memory technology allows you real-time access to massive amounts of profitability data in ERP. So now we're taking all of the data, we're taking the sales data when it happens, bring it over. We're associating the cost with it whenever they occur, which means I can go away from after the fact month-end analysis to more business in the moment analysis. I can look at a conference, at the end of a conference, how profitable it was. I can look at the end of every day of that conference and still look at, if I have 3 days to go, what are my targets? Where am I doing well? Where do I have some issues and can address them while you're at that conference? You have flexible and unconstrained profitability reporting. All the data is there, and unlimited multidimensional analysis. Especially in profitability, you want to analyze the data by those different aspects that you manage: a channel, a region, a customer, product group, the time of the day that you sold it, maybe geographical information, demographic information. So with technology like in-memory technology, you're not longer bound by limitations in the dimensionality. You can basically run this with as many dimensions as is required by your business. And the benefit basically is maximize profitability with profitable and powerful insights to unlock your opportunities. If you can drill down to the level where the business occurs, you can identify both challenges as well as opportunities immediately and give your advice to those people that are actually executing the business, to those people in the sales, the engineers that produce those products. You have improved financial performance and efficiency with faster profitability reporting. It's the productivity of those people that actually look at the data. If you're an account manager and you look at Monday morning from 8 to 9 at all your key accounts, and based on the time it takes today to analyze the data, you can get 6 key accounts reviewed. Maybe it is going to be 12, 25, 30, 40, I don't know. But it's going to be more. Your productivity rises, you can process more data, you get deeper insight, and all of this at the same time, because we take the waiting on the system perspective out of the equation. And we have empowered business users with access to trusted data to enable profitable business decisions. If you have access to the line item data, then basically all you need is a tool that gives you access to it, and people can run the reports that they want. They can take the analysis path that they want. There's no longer an IT department that has to predefine which reports you run, in what sequence you have to run it. They no longer break it up into customer and location is here, and location and product is here, and product and region is there, and a different report. It's all together. You as a business user with this technology can determine what it is you want to look at down to the line item level. So basically, it's unlocked opportunities to maximize your profitability. You can manage your profitability. You don't review what happened after the fact. You can get accelerated financial performance and efficiency. It's not only the productivity of the people that are using this information, but it can also impact directly the financial close. If a report with a long runtime is part of the critical path of a close, and we dramatically reduce the time in which this report runs, we reduce the closing cycle time. If I don't have processing windows and I can have real-time analytics on my postings, I can make closing entries, adjustment entries, look at the results immediately. I don't have to wait for 2 or 3 processing windows to happen where data is consolidated again. You can look at the results right away. That reduces the financial closing time as well. And of course, any kind of time that you spend on analyzing data, issues, challenges is being reduced as well. So significant opportunity to reduce the time that it takes to close your books as well. And you have optimized profitable business decisions. The more you understand where your business is, the more you understand where your issues, but also challenges and opportunities are, the better decisions you can make. A quick look at the value drivers of this technology, and these are just examples, are in the area of revenue. If you understand where you make money, where customers are buying your product and why are they buying your products, you can increase revenue. You have revenue growth across products, regions, divisions, all those dimensions that are important to you. You can improve your profitability. You look at the margins for those respective products, for those customers that you serve, and you can give advice to those people who are executing business transactions on where they should look for additional businesses, right? You want to shed the unprofitable business transactions that you're executing. You want to make sure that those ones that are really profitable, that you increase. And it's the effectiveness of those people dealing with the information, either in the analysis department or maybe even the salespeople themselves. All right. So an example here of one of our customers that had a 120 million line items report on product-related dimensions for a single company. So in standard ERP reporting without in-memory technology, this would run for several minutes. It required a pre-calculated data aggregation level. So not only does it require that that data has been aggregated, but of course, if data was aggregated a while ago and transactions have happened since, that has to be processed as well. So even with the aggregation level, it would take several minutes. On the other side, with in-memory technology, this takes less than a second. And again, less than a second is an instant. You enter, this is what I want to see, and you hit the button, you hit your key, and then within a second you get the result. So it's an instant response time. You no longer have to wait for a report to appear on your screen. The data is there right away. Low limitations on drill downs and details as compared to obviously aggregated data obviously is limited in certain dimensions or in the number of records that you have in there. So substantial improvement here just based on the leverage of in-memory technology. A cool tool that you see here is a tool that lets you explore now all of these line items. You know, I said earlier, with in-memory technology, processing power, processing speed is so immense that you can go now down to the line items, right? All the line items are kept to the database, and look at this as a record for you, a database viewer. What's interesting is on the upper left side, you have all the dimensions of a profitability statement, your revenue, your cost of goods sold, your margins. You can pick which ones you want to see, and they're illustrated at the bottom left side here. You can choose a bar chart, a pie chart. You can have all different kinds of, BI intelligence tools and displays here determined by the business user. You just pick one of these charts here, or the way the data is actually displayed to you. If you look at the upper right side now for profitability, these are all the dimensions that are available in that database, right? You can have customer or derivations of customer, product, derivations of it, regions, channels, all the way down to maybe the color of an item that you sold, the geography that you sold it in, down to the line item and the document itself. That means that a business user with a tool like this is empowered now to determine his own drill down path. You can, for example, double-click here on billing type, or double-click here on, in this case, it was the business area or the region or the sales employee or the material number. And you see the results immediately down here. Again, within a second, within an instant. You don't like that drill down, there's an X, you click it away. So with tools like these that let you explore the line items in your database, the people can drill down to the levels of information that they need. And in theory, you could just have one report for the entire company because all the data is accessible now immediately. Big difference to today, where we have more like standardized reports or pre-formatted reports available that give you, a specific perspective on the data, typically limited in the time dimension or the organizational dimensions. Or if you go to business warehouses, they have different data cubes available that says, in this data cube you can look at customer and region, this one has region, product, and so on. So tools like this give you access to all data ever posted in regards to profitability. Very powerful and a big change. All right, so what does this mean for financial and managerial decisions? Make more confident decisions, unlock growth opportunities, and improve your financial performance. These are really key aspects from a financial and managerial decision-making perspective. If you look at finance and true real-time data, we can have increase in revenues. You better understand where you make money, where you lose money. You can improve your forecasting and planning accuracy, and you can proactively mitigate risk. Real-time is really key because it allows you not to look at the data after the fact, after that's happened, but you look at it and it gives you the time to still manage the business to come over the weeks in the period, over the months in the quarter. If you look at key financial processes, we can increase business user productivity. It's self-service. The response time is faster. You can optimize the cash flow with consolidated views of key information and significantly reduce the time that it takes to close the books. And with that, I'll hand it back to John.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Karsten. Okay, we're going to get into Q&A in just a moment, but right now what we'll do is launch the next poll, and we'll ask you once again to take a minute to go ahead and respond to this poll. Even if you are not here for CPE credit, we'd love to know what you have to say. And what we'll do is we'll revisit the first poll and this poll when we get into the Q&A, and then we'll move to your questions. And speaking of which, if you have any questions, this would be a good time to put them in, as we'll be getting to all of your questions in just a moment. I'll take this moment to let folks know that when we are done with today's webinar, you will be presented when you log off of the webinar with a brief survey. We would appreciate your taking just 1 minute to fill that out. We always like to know what we can do better the next time, and you're filling out the survey. It will help us with that, and thank you very much. So what we'll do now is we're going to go ahead and close that out, and we're actually going to share the results of our first poll question here. And I'd love to start with Karsten and ask, when you look at these results, and you can see we allowed people to provide more than one answer here, but when you look at the results here of this question as a finance organization, which of these issues would be most important to resolve at your company? What do you think about what we're seeing here? Is this match what you see amongst your customer base?
Absolutely, very representative. I mean, the fact that people say that we spend more time in creating reports than actually analyzing them stems from the fact that basically today's technology, or the technology that's in place right now, does not allow us to process all the data. So lots of workarounds in place, especially by the IT department. We have to be thankful that they're doing all of this stuff, but it's not really helpful. It takes us a lot of time to get the data where we want it, and then the analysis often is short and abbreviated, because again, I can only go down into the levels that we have there. So very typical, because it's based on the technology constraint that we see in our companies.
Gotcha. And Karuna, I'll ask you to chime in on this. The question for the second poll was the current level of visibility of operations data as well as financial data at our company is best described as, and visibility goes from non-existence to essentially perfect. You know, a lot of folks clustered around the middle here, but there's a fair amount with minimal and non-existent. How does this gel with what you guys usually see?
So I think, you know, if I may, you know, I'm not surprised with these responses, right? As we talked about the issues, as we talked about the fact that companies are not investing in new technologies because of the disruptive nature of it. You know, in terms of what has traditionally been available, this is a good indication of that. I mean, companies have basically learned to do that decision making with the information they have and not necessarily bringing in all that they need. So they do, I'm sure they all want to move to the scenario of being good and ideal, but they're typically hovering around the minimal to adequate, right? So the bare minimum in terms of meeting your regulatory requirements and doing your decision making.
Gotcha. So let's actually talk about that for a moment here. Karsten, how do companies move to this better technology base? First off, actually there's a number of questions on this continuum here, but is finance driving the desire at a lot of companies, the impetus to move to new technology so they can get better, faster access to data and analysis?
I think it's a 50-50 thing. You know, sometimes it is IT because obviously they look at this technology as general technology that helps them with all their IT needs. And the other half is really the finance guys that see a big opportunity in there. Let me give you an example, and that maybe comes back to the second poll as well that Karuna commented on. You might think that you today have all of the information that you need available already, and you might be satisfied, but there's always more. And one example might be data enrichment scenarios. Take the data that you already have and bring it, link it back, combine it with your sales data. So you know, for example, what color of a specific item sold more than others. Merge it with demographic data, with geographic data, and you can do all of this with in-memory technology. The point being is we have customers that see the opportunity that this brings and said, I not only can do better what I did in the past, but it enables me a whole new set of business scenarios. That typically is driven by finance because they have the imagination to look at, if I could do this, wow, this would be great, and then they drive this process.
And Karuna, do finance leaders need to be technology experts, or do they just need to have really good IT support?
I don't believe finance people need to be technology experts. I think finance people need to know what they want, right? They need to understand what their changing environment is. They need to understand what is the new type of analysis and reporting they need, and they need an excellent IT organization to deploy it. The one additional comment I would like to make is that, you know, anytime a new system has to be put in place, or whether it's like we talked about the in-memory technology, or we talked about a new reporting tool, the impact in terms of, you know, user adoption should be, or the user learning curve should be minimal for the finance organization. I mean, they should not care that, you know, what type of underlying database technology is sitting below my reporting system. All they should see and experience is, wow, I'm getting my data faster, my reports are better today. It's helping in my decision-making process. So they really need to focus on that piece.
Okay, and then a follow-on to that, Karuna, so if your IT group were to implement new data infrastructure that utilized in-memory data and gave you 100,000 times faster access to data, do any of your reporting or analytical tools change? Do you have to, you know, upgrade the entire chain of technology, or just really the database technology?
Just the underlying database technology, and I want to actually take a customer example who implemented some of our new technologies. From a front-end perspective, all the reports and analysis that were created by their finance users, the same set of reports and analysis continue to be in use. We just flipped out the underlying technology. As I said, when the users logged into those same systems, they were just faster and better. So we don't really have to replace the front end. We don't have to replace what work has already been done, because there's a lot of IP that is sitting in those reports and analysis that the finance organization has spent time on. So there should not be any need for them to recreate that.
So then it's really just about creating more time for them to spend on analysis and less time waiting.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. Karsten, is this technology available only on-premise, or are there platforms in the cloud that allow you to take advantage of this? In other words, do you have to go internal, or are there other avenues to get to this better performance?
It's just technology, and it's leveraged on-premise, on-demand, depending on the vendor and how they have enabled or how they're leveraging this technology towards solutions for our customers. So we have both. We've seen both, and interesting enough, even mobile solutions that get data from the backend system might use memory technology to get faster data to the mobile devices.
And is there a particular kind of database technology that allows the in-memory, or is it available from a variety of providers and a variety of database platforms?
That's the interesting thing, actually. It's available from a variety of providers, obviously, and it's not something that we came up with. Well, we do it, and our system is called HANA, H-A-N-A, but our competitors like Oracle, Cognos, they all have it as well. But those databases have been around for a while, so it's not like someone invented it last year. This is all brand new. It just reached a tipping point, right? So those companies that have looked into research into those databases 10 years ago, now they have very mature databases, and you can go on the internet and just do I think on Wikipedia there's a list of those database providers.
Gotcha. And what kind of, Mr. Karsten again, what kind of investment does it take for a company to gain access to these big data capabilities?
I would say the answer really depends on how much data you want to bring in there. And I'm saying this because even smaller databases, I'm making SQL Server Microsoft here as an example. I don't know if they do it yet, but they could be available as well. So it really depends on how sophisticated solution do you want to deal with. Typically on our level, it's enterprise systems. They're pretty big. They could be terabytes in size, and then you deal with a substantial investment in the technology, but with a great return eventually. The information that you get will help you explore new avenues of revenue. Be able to eventually do business in the moment. You could imagine real-time calculations of costs at storefronts and retail departments, for example. So there's total new business processes that are possible. So the technology investment grows, I guess, with the amount of data that you want to process.
Gotcha. And Karsten, we'll toss this one to you again, but I'll be interested to hear what Karuna has to say next. Are there any additional security issues when you change your platforms, or is it all just the same as it was the day before you switched over?
Yeah, well, a twofold answer. If the database, the in-memory technology is just used to run that same report that you already have in place faster, then basically the impact is almost zero because all existing security settings will be in place. If you use in-memory technology to build custom reports or use new tools to access data from there, you just have to use the safety or security settings within those tools on either the technology level, the in-memory database, or the reporting level to make sure everyone can just only see what he's supposed to see.
So then would that come down to the application level security? So who gets to see what as you're broadening essentially the base of people who get to touch the data?
Exactly. I mean, more the reporting aspect of the application. If you accelerate existing reporting that is there, or if you use in-memory technology as just a very, very fast database, then you have to make your security settings on that database level, or the new reporting tool, the reporting application that accesses the data from there.
Okay. Karuna, anything else to add on the security front?
No, I think Karsten has covered it well.
Okay. So next one for you, Karuna. Are there sort of in-memory systems that can be utilized by smaller companies? How do companies that are beyond the Fortune X get access to this new technology so they can get the benefits as well?
So I think one has to take the size of the company out of this equation. The technology, as we've talked about, has been around. From a price perspective, it's not like it's extremely expensive. It all depends on the number of the amount of it you want to deploy. And so even smaller companies we are starting to see are adopting this technology quite a bit. And let me give you a simple use case, right? And this is to bring in the whole mobile and in-memory play. That we have customers who are implementing the system just to come up with point-of-sale analytics, right? And when I say point-of-sale, then you could be at a retail store and a customer could be, in line to buy something. And as the person is ringing up the information, they get so much more information about the customer in terms of, what they have invested with the company in the past, what is their potential to buy in the future. So analysis, and then appropriately, offer them discounts. So they are very simple use cases that companies are looking to deploy, but are extremely powerful from a longer-term growth perspective, longer-term profitability perspective. So depending on the type of business you are, you may be a small company, but you may have a lot of data that is being generated for your business, and you want a way to analyze that quickly at that moment in time, right, at the speed of thought, which is when it should be a compelling reason for implementing technologies like these.
Now, you bring up an interesting point, and actually we had a webinar just last week on driving growth from the office of the CFO. And some people on the line might be saying, wow, point-of-sale discounts and customer analytics, et cetera, down to the purchaser and product level isn't something we do a lot of in our finance organization. And yet we've seen for our part a lot of CFOs trying to drive that kind of analysis. Are you seeing that as well, and are these tools helping finance organizations cast their net wider in terms of what they can analyze?
I think so. No, we are starting to see a lot more use cases like this, right? So the other one that we are hearing, and this is again in pure finance, is account executives are going to be having these mobile apps that give them information about the credit history of a customer, right? That information for the AE to have it at that point in time is so relevant, whether it is in terms of determining what is the payment terms going to be. Are we going to offer them net 30? Are we going to offer them net 90, right? Very simple question. But as you and I both know, these simple decisions go a long way for the finance organization. So we are starting to see, the use cases are simple, but extremely powerful, and we are starting to see a lot more organizations deploying it for these kind of use cases. But again, the bottom line requirement is, the data has to be secure, and the data has to be current, right? Those two basic requirements have to be met. Otherwise, it does not make sense to deploy something like this.
Great. We'll tell you what, I think we'll call that our last question, because I see we're at 2 minutes before the top of the hour, and we've got a couple pieces of last business here that we'd like to do. And the first is thank you so much to Karuna and Karsten for your time and insight. That was a great lesson to anyone in finance, accounting, treasury areas around what they can be doing to leverage new technology to make their jobs, their departments, and their companies more effective. So thanks to both of you for your time today. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, John, for hosting the session for us. It was a pleasure presenting to this audience.
You betcha. Second up, we'd like to thank SAP. Their generosity allowed us not only to put this on at no cost to our users, like everything we do at Proformative, but also they provided the wonderful speakers and content that was very valuable. So we certainly thank them and appreciate their support. If you have any questions about CPE credits today, please contact Tanya Walsh. You will see her email at the bottom of this slide. She will make sure that we get any questions answered that you might have very quickly. And finally, when you depart from this morning's webinar, you will be presented with a survey. It takes just 1 minute to fill out. It's just a handful of questions. We would greatly appreciate your doing that so we can do better the next time. Also, if you would like to be connected directly with either of today's speakers, it's very quick. You can just check a box, and we'll go ahead and make that introduction for you if you have any follow-up questions. And with that, it is exactly 10 o'clock Pacific, 1 o'clock Eastern time. We thank everyone who attended for your time and attention this morning. We hope to see you at another event on Proformative or online at www.proformative.com. And with that, I'll wish everyone a great week, and we hope to see you again soon. Thank you.